Hello, good evening, everyone. It's Monday, the 4th of November, and we're back. Of course, we didn't have an episode last week due to the AJ remembrance and the anniversary. So, obviously, I didn't get the opportunity to say, to everyone's thoughts with everyone, the family, the fan bases, and everything like that. And of course, it was the day I came back from Fife, one of the rink tours we've been wanting to do for the longest time. So, we got the opportunity to do that. So, I really want to start proceedings more than anything to probably just go through Fife while people are coming in. So, if you remember, I don't know. So last week it was the Sheffield Steelers versus the Cardiff Devils. So game finished on the Saturday, and pretty much left. And due to certain aspects of the transportation system in this country, we had to get a bus cancelled from Nottingham, so I didn't have to go to Nottingham, but we very lucky found a coach going from Sheffield to Leeds, which was about 20 quid. In hindsight, probably could have got a train or someone could have gave me a lift to Leeds, but that's kind of by the by. Got to Leeds coach station and Halloween weekend, Leeds town centre. Highly recommend it if you want to see people get arrested, debauchery and violence and everything and whatnot. Stayed a couple hours there, which was nice, and the clocks went. And then, of course, that meant, unfortunately, the extra hour I had to wait at the bus station for the coach to Edinburgh meant that I was stuck and stranded with a lot of drunk people that had lots of weird views about Trump, politics, Hitler, and everything. It was an experience. But finally made it to Edinburgh. A really great city if you've not been. Didn't get a chance to see the Capitals rink. That's probably something that we'll probably do going forward if we go again to Fife and Murrayfield. Really nice day, sightseeing, food. I had a lot of food. It kind of came a food review for the last couple of days, which was great. And yeah, finally got to Kirkcaldy. And I think that's probably where really big thanks to the organisation of Fife for being so forthcoming and kind for me to come over, film there, record there. Met lots of great people if you're watching, of course, and listening. It was really nice to speak to people and have a conversation about hockey and speak about Fife because it's one of the clubs I've not had an opportunity to go to. Of course, I'm in Sheffield a lot, Nottingham a lot, and close proximity arenas. So the fact I was able to go to Kirkcaldy, have a really great time. Thank you to the staff. Thank you to Jordan, who was my tour guide. He showed me the pond in Kirkcaldy and Rayfrathers football stadium and stories about the town and a little bit of a history lesson. It was really nice to do that. Tried Stovies. Highly recommend if you've not had a Stovey before. 5 Stovies are brilliant. I haven't got anything to compare them on because I've never had them before, so that was good. The curry was good, and some really, really great hockey. Saw a lot of goals, mainly for Dundee, but content-wise, it was really good. It was probably one of the best nights that I've had. Got to see Tom Coolin again, speak to a few people within the organisation, and we just love hockey talk. It's really great to go there. Fingers crossed we can go back. There's a couple of teams we want to go to again, so we have said if you can think of any clubs that you want us to go and do a rink tour, please let us know. We'd love to do it and try and get through many Elite League rinks and the National League rinks before the end of the season. A lot of travelling. If you want to wear, pretty much did 53 hours without sleep. There was some discussions about me doing the live show on the Monday before I realised the time and everything that was going on the Monday. But got home about midday, woke up about 8 o'clock, slept like a log. I wouldn't really recommend 50 hours without sleep, but it was a great rink tour, really perfect to go there and had a really great time. And, Fife is a great rink. Great atmosphere, great fans, and really enjoyed it. And obviously going to Edinburgh last week as opposed to this weekend is probably novel, given the circumstances that happened over the weekend, if you've not seen. So, this week, there's only really one place we can start. And, normally we would do it in a situation where we would talk about games in order. So, obviously, I'm going to go for Wednesday's game when I talk about Fife a little bit later on, but I'm going to start with Friday, 1st November, day after Halloween. So Storm with their Halloween warm jerseys. Have to say, they're probably one of the best warm jerseys that I've seen for Halloween. Credit to the designers and Hercules, of course, as well, for getting those out and being probably one of the best that I've seen, given the circumstances about Halloween games and what you can bring to the table. I mean, last couple of years, I know we've had, pumpkins, we've had people doing Ghostbusters, which irks me. This year we had Beetlejuice and, so many different variations of Halloween as well. Love my Ghostbusters, so I'm quite thankful Steelers didn't do a Ghostbusters one, and they did Beetlejuice, but that's just personal preference. But yeah, Halloween, it's a very difficult time given the circumstances of what you can put on there and what people do and don't want to see on a hockey jersey. But day after Halloween, a lot of games fell within the remit of Halloween games, and of course, Remembrance will be done next weekend. So we had a lot of conversations last year about different teams having different jerseys, specialist jerseys, and different raffles and different kind of Remembrance, Halloween, Pride, of course, Retro, Chinese New Year, Oktoberfest, so many different variations. But to see the effort and the time of being thinking outside the box, if you haven't seen them already, highly recommend having a look at them. Day of the Dead, that Mexican, the heritage and everything, bringing it to something different. So you've got to credit them, the designs, and bringing that out for them. And, as a game on a Friday night, everyone kind of looks at it and thinks, well, really a team like Storm that've kind of been up and down the last couple of weeks. Flames, one team that I said at the beginning of the season that I thought were going to be a team that was going to be up there again, not mind the gap levels again, but I thought they recruited really, really well. And now they've hit themselves in the ascendancy of starting to perform well and play well. And with everything that you've got with the teams there was obviously a really interesting game, especially being Altrincham Storm Shelter. When you see the type of game that Storm play and the game that Guildford play, it's very tough. It's very heavy. They're going to leave everything in and be in a position where you're going to see some action. You're going to see some goals from both sides, some great net minding, but they're going to push the limit and push the edge of what they're doing as a team. And if we're honest, there was probably not much that we saw within the game beforehand, during the game, until it kind of just, I think imploded is probably the wrong word, but it just kind of blew up, on social media. I mean, one thing that we kind of have the luxury of doing and having people sending us photos and videos. Of course, you're on the chat now and, really kind of courteous that you do send us the videos that you can as and when you can. And we didn't have the game on, it wasn't something that we picked up stream wise, if I'm honest. And, out of the blue, out of nowhere, it just kind of hit on every, Twitter hits it first, Facebook, because of the delay that it is on the Storm supporters channel, but videos just started to cipher and circle through and word of mouth. And, Karina messages and says, oh, I bet you wish you had your bingo card out on a Friday, because it kind of just, ejections, benches were just overcrowded and full in the penalty box. There was just equipment everywhere. Finally got the video and everything that we could see, and it was just chaos. It was just absolute chaos. And, I'm very particular because, I'm not just a fan that can kind of say this open and freely. I've kind of got the engagement, the algorithm, and the reach of when something like that happens, you are in a position where it's like Christmas morning. And I know it's terrible to say that obviously there's people involved in such a way that it is, but that's what people want to see, is that, the goals are great, the action is great, but when a fight happens, when there is some kind of drama, shenanigans, or something that kind of hits the press a bit, and we'll cover that. I think a lot of the things I'm going to cover today kind of follow within that theme. but how many penalty minutes there was actually between both teams. It's two teams that people have been very vocal about the Storm's way of playing and the type of players they've got, and then hitting the needle. And if you take in the certain players that Guildford aren't going to be in a position where they're going to take anything like that, it kind of starts, with the slew footing that we know later on that was going to be penalised. Joe Morrow gets the fine. And you kind of watch the video and you kind of see, I mean, we were fortunate to have video at the time. Storm, credit to them, they got the highlights out quite quickly, and we were able to revamp it, in such a way that we added WWE commentary on it, because we wanted to make it a bit more exciting, a bit more vibrant. I didn't want to sound, with someone there sound like they're ordering a Domino's pizza, so we wanted to make it like it was fun, exciting, and you kind of look at it and you think, these are the moments that we want to see. And it's terrible, but from a social media point of view, for everything that we write about, for every video that we post, we do the good, the bad, and the ugly, is when things happen like that, it brings most of the views, it brings most of the reach, and a lot of people engage to these kind of things because everyone is insightful with their thoughts, their opinions, and that kind of led to one video in particular that kind of got shared and we retweeted with relation to the officiating of trying to stop the fight. And, I've looked at it numerous times and been in the thought process of, is it the body movement? I don't skate, so I can't tell you about shifting body weights or how it would be on, when you're trying to stop something from happening. When I was a coach, football coach, and you would kind of just obviously try and grab them and do anything that you can, put your body in front of them. But obviously seeing the way that the leg moves and seeing the video, I know everyone has been forthright in their opinions of what should happen with the relation to the person involved within the officiating. I'm not the person to go through and say one thing or another. In the court of a public opinion, everyone's kind of given their thoughts to it. They didn't officiate this weekend. Kind of, it gets looked at. I mean, the only thing that I'd probably say, that the fact that there was slew footing as one of the DOPS posts, and then people kind of being, making the comments online about, well, if you were to write a script or a comedy show or any drama show, and that was to happen, and then instantaneously something else happens in the same game, we used to call it, when we did drama or everything like that, is just, the punchline is that you've kind of got the one thing that's there at the same time of when people want to put the focus onto the one thing that's happening, but then it will cause a situation where credit to the league, they didn't put the comments off. The court of public opinion that there is means that people will be open and discuss with what they want to do and their opinion, good or bad. And that's the thing that people have to remember. And I'm very lucky the last couple of weeks to be in a position where I've seen the good and the bad and the ugly of comments online, and what good they do and what bad they can do. But people will be very forthright in that decision. But one question that got posed to us this weekend was about a TV deal. I know we've covered it a few times, but one thing that I wanted to come through from a different light, rather than, the financials or anything like that, is that on an outside looking in, someone posted on Twitter today that for whatever people say about football and the issues that football have, is over the last couple of days of what we've seen on social media with different videos and different opinions about kicking teams out of the league and people should be banned or arrested for different hits or moves or anything like that, is I would love to see some football fans to see exactly what ice hockey looks like for such a small profile of social media. And I know obviously it's bigger in America and Canada and Europe, of course it is. So you kind of get that smaller footprint, but from what we see in the UK officiating, and that's the thing, is on Facebook, if you haven't had a chance to have a look at the kind of comments that we get on Facebook, is that basically all the videos that we post on social media go on all the relative channels. And of course, because Facebook is kind of more in line with people from America, Europe, and Canada that view and follow, it's kind of interesting for them to see, their hockey interpretation of what happens in UK hockey. And obviously, if you take away some of the Trump stuff and everything else that's posted from time to time, you actually hear some really insightful comments, and obviously the good and the bad of what they would see if it was a national hockey game, AHL, or various levels of what they see. And it's interesting to see that perception between the officiating in this country, with what we've got and what people do compared to what people see on the outside looking in, because the sports are growing. There's no doubt about that, where people are starting to take a proper view of UK hockey now. And then if people are looking at it and people are putting their mind's eye of what that needs to be, we're kind of in a position is we want to showcase the best of what we can give. And if game against Storm against Flames, people would look at it, it's a 4-2 scoreline. After all the penalties and the penalty minutes that are taken, it's going to be a really interesting one on the 17th. Of course, Anthony commentating for them. Might have to buy the stream for that one, because that will probably be really interesting. Glad they've got all the commentary notes sorted for you with everything that went on. But that's the kind of thing, is that there are certain games that you kind of mark on the calendar that you want to watch just for the level of games. And I said this earlier in the season about Steelers and Flames. That seems like the game that has the little bit of needle where something seems to happen. But the way that Storm and Flames went, just for a moment that was missed. And that's the thing, is I've always said this is you've got officials that are doing their job, that they can only do what they can. If you've watched the podcast on Spotify, or listened to it, actually, not watched it, but we actually did an interview with iVision with Lee Waters, and we were talking about officiating, players, the eye coordination, and what they actually see in a split second, taking into consideration what's happening on the ice, off the ice, and the movement of the eyes, the head, and everything they can see in a split second. And of course, we've got the video review systems, we've got certain aspects, but we are in a petri dish of micro-analyzation. Is that anything that happens that is good, something that happens that you disagree with, is that instantly on Twitter or any of the social media channels, is you will hear for, against, or slap bang in the middle of opinion. And of course, certain videos will be posted live and at the arena. Some will be with commentary, and some will be without commentary, just there. And then people are looking at a snapshot of the kind of decision making that's been taking place. And that is where, from an official point of view, I wouldn't want to do that job. Why? Because I think obviously the criticism that kind of gets taken place on there, they have good games, they have bad games. And, for the training that the guys do and the girls do at the beginning of the season in Nottingham, getting all the new rulings in place, the Zoom meetings and everything, the discussions, it'd be something really interesting to see what they do throughout the season. Do they have, like the Premier League does with VAR, where they look at decisions that have been made at the weekend and then review them in the week and see what they could have done differently? Is there that kind of port of call of an assessment? Can they take that information that's been done and learn from it? And of course, that's the problem, is that, a lot of them are working within, this isn't a full-time occupation for them. I do what I do, and then I work 9 to 5 in the week. I have 3 or 4 hours. It depends, obviously, if they're doing any hockey within the week, if they're taking on games for extra cash or anything like that. Is there kind of that catchment where they can speak to someone on so-and-so game, you did this, this, and this. We've looked at it, we've reviewed it, and be in a position where, okay, they've done this, they've reviewed it, this is what could be done better. Because at the moment, we've got trial by social media. And with us doing that, is we're kind of caught in this little bubble that emotion comes in the way, because as we saw over the weekend, that there is a sense of tribalism. If something happens I'm very lucky as someone who kind of covers all aspects of neutrality and not having any skin in the game with one particular team. But then you speak to someone that has skin in the game that supports the team no matter what. Are they going to look at that in the same interests of, you know what? I think that's the right call and we'll cover it. I think a lot of people on Sunday did have that kind of mentality, that thought process that that's not right, that's not on for the actual happenings that happen in Cardiff. But some teams can't have that. There has to be a kind of siege mentality to protect the players, protect the organisation. And we see that quite often where a little civil war will break out. I mean, 9 times out of 10, it's something that I posted. Then there'll just be a long list of comments of people just ranting and raving about it on social media. So, like I said, it's form of opinion, which is absolutely what we want. We want eyes on the prize, and it would be interesting, like Becca said in the chat, what non-hockey people would see, because that's the thing is with the algorithms that learn about TikTok algorithms the last couple of days is that things just randomly appear. So people are like, I don't know much about this sport. I'll have a look at it. Oh my God, what's going on here? Get down the rabbit hole. Exactly what's happening. And then you're there at 3 o'clock in the morning looking at hockey hits, hockey fights, and dramas with goalie goals and everything like that. But I've always said, if you can get someone hooked, the last couple of years I've seen it that people have gone from not knowing what hockey is to starting to casually watch games. And then I know people that are just pretty much dialed in 100%, got a jersey, got that, pretty much got the tattoo of being a supporter and then want everything about it. So, Friday night, Guildford get the 2 points. A lot of people weren't really talking about the game, if I'm honest. Really great game for two teams that will probably be up there and thereabouts. Depending on how it looks, they do look like a strong team, both of them. But they do have that in the locker where they can throw a little bit of needle in and antagonise. So, as we talked about officiating for the last couple of minutes, it's only fair that we go to Saturday. And the game that we'll obviously talk about first is the Sheffield Steelers versus Manchester Storm, where officiating comes into the conversation again. But this is probably a little bit different for me because this was an actual game that I was at. I know that surprises a lot of people that Jason the Puck were at a Steelers game on Saturday, but no apologies for it, of course. So you look at the game, really great start. Storm come out strong. No Tansy. That's probably one of the big things that I'll probably have a look at is that kind of not having Tansy in the team for the Steelers probably opened up the door of what happened next. Because if I'm honest, I feel like Storm probably wouldn't have got the licks in that they did if a player of Tansy was on the ice. Because he kind of probably would have nipped that in the bud a lot earlier than it needed to be. But when you look at the hits and look at a lot of things that happen there, players like Usler, it's bad if Usler's come in wanting to drop gloves and wanting to push back the way that Storm were doing and the way that they were chirping. Saucerman and Derfinger were at it. There was probably one point where I was right near the penalty box and they were pretty much, as soon as their time was done, I had my camera ready because they were the way that they were chirping, the way that they were talking, it pretty much looked like they were going to be dropping the gloves as soon as they left the penalty boxes and go again. That's how it kind of did on the evening. But that's probably another one where the officiating kind of, they got under the skin of the Steelers with the hits that they were making, but the decisions, because one thing that, watching it on social media and watching it on a stream is one thing, but being around the arena, because that's one thing that I kind of did that, the couple of periods when they were being a little bit angsty and a little bit needle is, I was around the arena. And the thing is that you can kind of read the room a lot. You can not booing. The booing came later, of course, but you could see that the decisions that were being made or not made by the officials, it kind of turned it into a cauldron where every little pass and every little bit of hits that were done, you could see that a lot of people were getting angry, not at the teams as such. It was just it was building. One of these things that I always say about when we record is I will record probably about 300 videos through an entire game that are probably like 1 second long, where I'm thinking this is going to be a goal, this is going to be a fight, this is going to be something like that. And I've been learning to try and not do that because it's kind of painful trying to edit through them. But that was probably the one game where I just had this consistency, like something's going to kick off here. You can just see someone's body language. You could just see that their verbals. You could just see it, that stuff was happening, that they were just ready to go. And, I was quite lucky to get a lot of the tussles as and when they happened because of that, because you could just see that from both sides. And this is where I go back to it, is that you think if there was a Tansy there, they would not have dared to try and do that. Or if they did dare, one person would have done it, and then they would have all fell into line. And that's, someone messaged and said about enforcers in hockey. And obviously, Guy Lepine messaged on one of the chats today about having an enforcer as well, that, people should jump in and defend their teammates. Yes, it is a dying breed. There isn't that many players that can drop the gloves the way they used to. The spectacle of having someone there that would just literally be like, he's going to go. He's going to go and he's going to hit big, and there's just going to be a centralized brawl. Everyone's just going to shake hands, go along their way, and that's it. That part of the game isn't what it used to be, and it's not there anymore. But when the bell rings, there is people that are going to answer, and, surprisingly, seeing Usler come in there, and that's when something's quite bad. That hit on Watling, the one on Barmas, the 2 ejections, is, obviously I don't really want to say it, but the quietness in that rink when Watling was down, and the work that needed to be done to get him off the ice safely and protect him, and seeing the comments, especially about Barmas, about, embellishment and diving, is when you're there and you're looking at a snapshot. I mean, you post a 10-second video, and when you do something like that, people will say one way or another their opinion, and you want people to have their opinion. No one has a right or a wrong opinion, especially in this. This is one thing that a lot of people have said to me, that, I have an opinion, I post something, so therefore I have to accept the good and the bad that comes with it. But being there and seeing how it affected people, and, I looked over, I was speaking to some people within the organisation as they were trying to move him off, and you could just see the stress on their face given what happened last season, and seeing Karina and her family and having a look and seeing everyone's looking every time a player goes down. This is the thing now, is that a lot of people have that in the back of their mind now of what they experienced, and it's not nice to see. The fact that he came up on his own volition and left the ice, absolutely great, but then that's where the reviews go in. The thing is that there were lengthy reviews for both the ejections on Saturday, and that kind of builds in. It's always like a panto. That's the way I have to do it, is that it comes a crescendo where they will do it. They will take a couple of minutes. The reviews will be on the screen to fill the time. Credit to Steelers to put Charlie on and doing what he needed to do when to try and get people looking away and trying to keep people, I don't want to say entertained, but distracted, I think is the best word, and that's what they did. But when they're looking at the reviews and they're actually showing the hits at multiple angles and slowing it down, that's when people will look at it and formulate an opinion. And 9 times out of 10, that opinion will be biased towards your team, especially if a player's gone down and they're not returning for the rest of the game due to an injury on the ice. And then, of course, no word exactly of how that's going to look for it. But that's probably the biggest worrying thing, is that you look at that game and that Storm 2 days in a row, that, very big penalty minutes from a team. And then you look at what Storm fans have put in, that they haven't really condoned it. Not happy with the 0 point weekend. Of course, you wouldn't be. But a lot of people say, there was always a time when Storm kind of had that in the locker, where they could be some right little needle. Of course, where they could just be a team that, I remember when Storm and Steelers, and I think the game literally just started, and they went after Davy Phillips within, I think it was pretty much within 10 seconds of the game. is every team has that in that locker, and you look at teams. I mean, one way you look at the spectrum is that people used to say that about Coventry Blaze and Danny Stewart's team, and now people are looking at it as Storm as a team that aren't going to get pushed around, but it's not good reading from a weekend point of view when they've had so many penalty minutes, and a lot of people have probably looked at that, and if you were outside looking in, is the league do save of the week, the league do goal of the week. Everyone wants to know about the goals, the excitement, the wins, and the points. I think the one thing that happened this weekend is people didn't really see the score. They kind of see the drama and the situations that came out that led to it. And of course, one of the big ones was there that a few fans, I'm going to say a few fans, it's not fair to say that there was a lot, was kind of pushing for Storm to be kicked out of the league. You know, comments that were like that's unacceptable 2 nights in a row, and it kind of creates a vacuum, really, where people have these comments. And, you know, it's Saturday night, the hockey. You know, people have said silly things before. We're probably going to go back with that with some of the games in the Saturday anyway. But, you know, I didn't really see many people pushing for an ejection from Storm out of the league. We're struggling as it is, trying to keep people within the league and keeping the teams in and around that area. So, no, you know, I didn't really see many of those comments. Probably didn't anticipate a poll being generated about it, but it kind of leads into the narrative when we get to Sunday. So we're going to take away from officiating for the time being, because hitting you with officiating will hit you with a crescendo near the end when we talk about Sunday. So Nottingham Panthers took on the Cardiff Devils. So normally this would be a game that I would go to on a Saturday, be it Nottingham. And if we're honest, when Cardiff come to town, Nottingham normally get the win. So it would have been perfect, get that streak going for the Rink Tour again by going to Nottingham against Cardiff. We put on the bingo card complaints about face-off time. You know, at the time, we did make the joke saying we put it on there. We haven't put it on there for a long time. When the information was about what had happened to cause the delay. So obviously, anyone who had any inclination or any issues with that, you know, we did apologise, and we didn't realise the complexities of it. And it was just a case. To be fair, Storm are normally pretty good to complain about Steelers' face-off times and the delay due to the intro and everything. So we thought it was going to be a banker anyway. But of course, you know, Devils, the circumstances that led them to go there. And you got to credit the organisation. They did the pre-show with Simon Hunt. Panthers have really kind of pushed that pre-show at the Salt Box, where they're bringing people in to have conversations, and, you know, people can get food, people can get drink. They're kind of, now it's getting colder, perfect place to be in the warmth. And then, if I'm honest, it's owned by the arena at close proximity anyway, so cash is coming through. Perfect. Go there, Panthers land into the arena. Bob's your uncle. Everyone's stuck in there for the evening. You can go and get some fish and chips. You can go and get some food. From a business point of view, this delayed game probably worked quite well, because a lot of people waiting for it would have probably got a lot of food, a lot of drink, a lot of merchandise. And, you know, you've got to credit Paws and Ken and Sam Hurst for keeping the entertainment going, is that you could kind of put people in there, maybe say, okay, come later. We're not going to open the doors until this time whatsoever. And then people it kind of puts people in a position that, if it was honest, how much the tickets are, if I was going as a normal Saturday night for a ticket for 20, 30 quid, I wouldn't say screw that, because I haven't really got a chance to waste 30 quid. But a lot of people would probably say, you know, if you're a season ticket holder and you paid and spread it out, what's one game? If you've done the all-in, you'd be like, well, it's going to finish at silly o'clock anyway. But the fact that Paul's made it engaging, it carried over to Sunday with Geordie Munro doing it, and then now this idea that we're kind of bunching together to try and get every of the mascots to get on the ice and have penalty shots or have shots at someone would be a pretty cool thing. You know, it kind of starts on something like that, but you know, good music, pause being interactive, they can't help it, given the circumstance of what happened on the motorway and the way that people reacted and still reacted after they knew what happened, thinking that it was the devil's fault or they should have left early or anything like that. They left within the remit that they're. Unfortunately, when you're traveling, they're not going to be in a situation where they come the night before. They're not going to fly from Cardiff to East Midlands or somewhere and drive from there. It would make no sense. Is they put the best hand forward that they possibly could. Admittedly, it's a weird one when you put in on social media pre-approved posts to be scheduled for games finishing, make an assumption for overtime and shootouts, and then you get messages saying we've not even hit the third period at around 10 o'clock. And I don't know what hockey games like that late. I've only watched the ones in Canada and the US later in the evening at 2 or 3 in the morning. But being a live situation, but to be watching that game so late as it is, when you probably had the afternoon out all day, a little bit tired, but you've got to credit the players. The fact is that they had to do that as well. Get finished, get eaten, get dressed, get changed, and then leaving to go to Fife the next day. Performance-wise, this is where both teams go in. That Panthers have probably had their pre-game rituals, the food that they needed to do to be in preparation for the game, keep rested, keep energized is what they needed to do, because they're probably predisposed thinking they were meant to start an hour and a half ago. So their routine, their game plans out the window. And then that's the same with Cardiff, is that you're on a coach. We joke about bus legs and being in the circumstances of tight and closed places. The fact that Devils actually posted that they had new bus sponsorship on the day that happened, won't lie, seeing the photos inside, it looks like a really lovely coach and a lot of space actually for working and stretching out. But I've been on these game coaches. I know how they smell before a game and after a game with the equipment and everything like that, and people sleeping on the floor. Is that they basically had to be on that for such a prolonged period of time at standstill, jump out, get dressed, get prepped, get prepared, eating what they can, going on the ice, and giving a really decent performance. Hembrant gets the hat trick for Panthers, but no one looked at it as a kind of one-sided game. It was a really good performance from Panthers, but to be fair, Devils played really, really well considering the circumstances. That's one thing that you just got to have a look at. And if you think about it, is if I was on a coach for that long day and they said that you want to play 60 minutes hockey, I'd be like, yeah, that's not going to happen. So you've got to credit them that got on there, good performance themselves. Nice to see the video of Tetlow and Riley Brandt having a nice little chat after the last time they were at a game in Nottingham. But, went without circumstances. People were throwing hats at Hembrandt. Perfect. Really good game. Panthers have done well. And of course, looking at the circumstances that people have been saying about it, the inconsistencies that Panthers have had this season, we joke about the way the Devils go and people are making posts. Can't we just turn back and give them the 2 points? They're going to get them anyway. And it's a weird one. I'm very fortunate that I've been at Panthers games as many times as I have, and seeing them win against Cardiff. I don't know what happens in that respect, where some team just have that number. But it'd be interesting to know if you guys can think of anyone to let us know about one team that no matter what happened would just come to an away game or a home game where you just knew it was game over before the game had even been done. Admittedly, I know Steelers fans are probably going to say, well, the last 21 games that they played against Panthers is probably a big indication and takeaway from that. But there's just something that happens there that regardless of who's the ownership, who's in the team, who's the coach for either teams, they just seem to get the job done. I mean, obviously the variation would be the Aladdin Cup, the illustrious Aladdin Cup in pre-season that Devils did win in Nottingham. But for the most part, it just seems that once Devils hit the door in Nottingham, something just happens that happens in that rink, which is an interesting one. So the last game in the league for Saturday was the Dundee game against Blaze. Got to be honest, I'm really thankful that I never said anything about Blaze finishing in the bottom. I don't do predictions because I will fall flat on my face regardless. So the fact that they are doing so well, and big shout out. I haven't mentioned it. We've been doing this for a good 40 minutes. I've not mentioned the Player of the Month award. So let's go with the coach first and foremost for the Coventry Blaze, which was Kevin Moore, who won the award. And then, of course, Matt Robson was the netminder of the month. So as we can see, that this month, the biggest fan base didn't win. And, you've got to credit a lot of teams that actually, not just Steelers fans, but all teams throughout the league that said, well, you know what, Blaze have done brilliantly, amazingly well. They deserve these awards. And it was very close as well in the defensive and the forward situations as well for Blaze, that we might have actually had another clean sweep, and that would have just not been what we wanted. But it was really good. The voting system works, that we proved that. I know a lot of people disagreed with it because the bigger fan bases would always win. But, I've got to credit every single person that voted. They did really to actually let people vote for the right ones. And I think the winners won. So credit to them. But yeah, Coventry, great start to the season. The recruitment that Kevin Moore has done, he's brought the right people in. He's changed the mindset. He's changed the way of playing. I know we've said that bringing these new players in that he has and could have put him in a position where, they want to prove themselves his first year in pro and having some experience around them, but they haven't looked out of place. Stars was probably one of the tougher games that we're going to have due to the way that Stars have been playing the last couple of weeks, is that the form of Stars have just been, I was there last weekend when they played Fife, and it's probably one of the first times that I've seen Stars up close. I know I saw them in Nottingham a few weeks prior, but this was actually seeing them, offensively, net minding, where there was just standouts throughout this team that just never gave up. The attitude that they had, the speed of the team as well, and the skill. And it was great to see Cameron Keeley now in the Stars side. Didn't see much of him at Steelers, but now to see him, he's kind of been a really great acquisition. And for them to, go to overtime in Dundee and Blaze, and that's the thing, is it's a lottery. When you get to overtime and shootout situations, it's always that lottery where who's going to come out on top, who's going to just, a line change, puck luck, these things just happen. And, they're probably happy that they took the point, probably wanted the 2 points, of course they would. But Stars are a really, really good team this year as well, and that, I think they're going to surprise people, especially with the horseshit comment that was by Mark Lefebvre. Philip Sange being in the team now, that's going to be an interesting one to see. He's back in the lineup. Blaze, who would have thought that we're going to be looking ahead next weekend to a top of the table clash between them and Devils? And it's nice for them to say, them putting the league table and Kevin Moore being quiet and very level, low key with saying that, he hasn't looked at the table yet, which you wouldn't. It's only November. Challenge Cup still going. And the league's, trying to remember which games are league games and which games are Challenge Cup games to know where the points are being shared at the moment. It's going to be a lot clearer when we get through to December. And then that's when we're in a position to see, who the runners and riders are with the last games. Devils with the Conti Cup. Of course, Steelers now have Berlin in the next couple of weeks. It's going to be a really interesting time to see how Blaze continue on this run, and if they do it for a prolonged period of time, it's only refreshing and exciting for the league. It's great seeing Steelers being at the top. It's been great seeing Belfast at the top, Devils as well, and the arena team. So now that Blaze have made the change, a lot of people probably have made the comments about which manager would you rather have at the beginning of the season between Danny Stewart and Kevin Moore. Panthers have that inconsistency that they're probably going to find and fix as time goes on. And, with everything that happened last season, Kevin Moore's got a lot of money in the bank, really, for credit between the teams, the fans, the league in general. Cannot say a bad word against a person. Really great, of course, that he won Coach of the Month, but it was fully deserved. He's been absolutely brilliant. For someone to come in and be an assistant coach at Panthers and then just come in his first real job there and be the way that he has, credit. where credit's due. Absolutely really great guy for it. So that's Saturday in the league. Of course, Challenge Cup as well. We'll start with that as well because Belfast Giants had 2 games in the Challenge Cup. Fife. Won't lie. I said this week with the Wednesday game. So before the Wednesday game against Steelers, Saturday game against Giants, and then Sunday's game against Panthers, I thought Fife were going to get a win in one of those 3 games. Going back to what we said earlier about narratives and the way that the league is that at some point they were playing 3 teams that would have a meltdown if they lost to Fife, let's just say. So it was kind of written in the stars, in my opinion. Of course, hindsight's a beautiful thing and wasn't quite where I wanted to be, but won't lie, on Saturday when you get to the end of the first period and you see that Fife are 2-0 up against Belfast, that was a surprise. Don't know what the reading of the room was and what the feeling was in the SSE arena. Of course, it's one period of hockey. A lot of things can change in a hockey game, but to be 2-0 up, playing the way they do, being short benched, and the circumstances around the players of selection and what they can do with the lines that they've got, the injuries and everything, and swapping out Shane Owen as well. There was some quiet optimism. I was thinking, is this going to be the night? Admittedly, spoiler alert, it wasn't. It hit 5-3 in the end. Belfast, relentless again. I mean, this is the thing. Regardless of if they're playing a top team or a lower tier team, they haven't had the consistent that they want to this season. I'm sure that they would be wanting to be picking up more points. I mean, going when they did against Panthers and fighting the storm that they did a couple of weeks ago, the games against Clan as well, where the sure it is, but winning, getting the points is probably the key thing that's on the board. They can look at consistency, performances as time goes on, and especially with the game that they've got coming up very shortly, which I think is going to be another interesting game on Sunday, remembrance game back in Sheffield, especially after the comments that were done last time about fan base's looks and thought processes and opinions. I think that's going to be an interesting one as well. But they got the win, continued down that. But then a different kind of performance on Sunday. We've said about Dundee Stars, the way that they've been playing and good that they are. To go and get a 1-0 game. A lot of to-in and throwing, a lot of scuffles that were there during the game that were sent across to us as well. So we kind of see that that's that kind of game where, with the Challenge Cup, how many times that Stars have played each other, the way that the Challenge Cup fixtures go, and the performance that Stars had, and then travelling up against it. Really Boyd, of course, getting the overtime win, extra time, very slow pace, but that's a very different kind of game. They've got that game control, keeping a no-goal game for them, getting the shutout, absolutely brilliant for them, of course. But getting that 1 goal, want to be scoring more. It's very rare to see a 1-0 hockey game. But they'll take it at the end of the day. They've got the points. They're the first team to get to the semi-final of the Challenge Cup. If they win the next 2 games that they've got against Clan and Fife, they will be the top seeds. But obviously that kind of depends of what they do if they get through the semis to the final, and then be a case that will be in Belfast for the final. But if they do that and get the points that they need to get to be top seeds, and then again that comes into a conversation with people talking and discussing about the way that it looks with the Challenge Cup format. And, I've said that it's great, the changes that they've done near the bottom with relation to the South, Midlands and North as well. Could they make the changes they need to do so it kind of mixes halfway through? That's always been my ideal. I know a lot of people having comments about the FA Cup style of bringing the National League teams in was mentioned and mooted at the beginning of the season. And the biggest example that was kind of posted, I think it was Anthony actually who posted it on social media, was about the Angers winning in France 24-0, is that you don't want to see that kind of game. Yes, consistency of a home and away game, it has been mixed up. There's, for me, seeing the kind of Panthers Steelers Storm game 700 times before the end of November. This time it's kind of been branched out by playing different teams in different circumstances. Is there a way to just prop it down and say, okay, these are the highest pointed team, these are the lowest pointed team, round robin, to try and mix it up for the last couple of games or anything like that? It's an idea, but there's always an idea. There's thousands of them out there. But we'll see how it goes. At the end of the day, they'll do it. Get to November, December time, and then we'll see how it looks when it gets to the final and everything processed. But of course, the cost, the travel, of course, the Conti Cup and the CHL now with the extra time that now Steelers have got into the last 16 that they've got to kind of incorporate and decide upon. But Belfast have kind of got that luxury now. They've got 2 games. They can mix up the lineups that they want to do. Of course, they'll want to take that top seed in as well. But now they can concentrate on the league, knowing that they've got the position within the Challenge Cup. But maybe that's an opportunity with the 2 ways that they've got to bring some of the people from Solway and that they've got an MK and get them to play as games that they can to get it. That might be something that they just need to have a look at and just see if they can just start bedding people in and get an opportunity to rest people up when they need to. Clown, of course, is never going to be an easy game. Fife are knocking on the door. They need to get a win sooner rather than later. And now they're getting the injuries and the players back in. They've still got those 2 import slots that they can try and bring someone in and change it in. So a lot can change before those fixtures, but Belfast will be happy. 4 points in the Challenge Cup, semi-final, on the route to be top seeds and an opportunity to have the final at the home rink, which, did it a couple of years ago when they took on Fife. I'm sure they'll be wanting to do something like that again, but see how that one looks. So we've done Saturday, we've done Sunday a little bit there. So I think it's only fair to continue with the Sunday. So we'll do the league games, and then I'm going to finish off with the last Challenge Cup game. And then, of course, throw any questions that you want to in the chat. And I'll try and answer them at the end. So Fife, this is where another game, the opportunities that they had, where that was another game where you're looking at it. Halloween jerseys, really great. They've done a great job. Slime, who doesn't love slime? And the green. I don't know if they can do it where it's reflective and, light up in the dark. If it is, it's really cool because they did the auction after the game. So maybe that's something that if anyone's a Fife fan listening and got a jersey to let us know, it'd be really interesting to know. But, after a really tough game against Sheffield on Wednesday where, I know the circumstances around it and, the last 20 Steelers really turned up, but it was interesting to see from the way that Fife played on Sunday, the way they played on Wednesday. I kept saying it would have been really nice if they'd done that on Sunday because I felt that they could have kept the streak alive. But then the irony is I thought they were going to knock the English streak because obviously they stopped the Scottish streak by doing that. But they played really well, really great. Steelers turned up. Great performance Saturday, same again. Really great start, kind of whittled away as and when. And that's the thing, shorter lines, more ice time. People are going to start getting tired, taking penalties. It's just going to hit. As soon as they get onto the penalty kill, teams are just going to wind away and just take away and click at them. And Panthers were very kind to say from Nottingham it's 344 something miles. All this time I thought it was 500 miles, but that's the Proclaimers' fault, so we'll blame them. I thought everything was 500 miles. But very long journey for them, especially finishing late against Cardiff on the Saturday to go to Fife. And then that's another thing again. This is where 2 credits come in. Fife kept battling away, taking the lead, getting pegged back. But that's the thing with Panthers, especially this season. They are in a position now where before they would go down by a goal or a couple of goals, and then they're just like they get belly getting rubbed. There just didn't seem to be any pressure there. And of course, with the fan bases getting more and more irate, as soon as there's one too many passes and they're not shooting, as soon as they get the puck in the offensive zone, it always pressure started to build, especially when they were down by a goal. But this Panthers this season just seems to be a little bit, they can get a goal. They can also keep the momentum and try and get a second goal. But if they are losing, they concede. Heads aren't dropping anymore. There's not a position, but unfortunately, that's a position where they do that, but they can't do it week in, week out. When you look at the bigger teams like a Belfast and the Devils and, of course, Steelers, is they can go down by a goal, and then it's just not if they're going to get a goal back, it's when they're going to get a goal back. But, of course, Panthers playing against Fife, they seem to do it every opportunity that they had. Not great that they're going down, going to overtime, going shootout, considering the game management that needed to be. Bernard, really great netminder. Once again on a shootout, it seems to be solid as a rock as well. the brick wall annotations, that everything there. People are asking the question, what's going to happen with Rock and Vorga when he comes back, if he's going to be back from injury. But one of the things that I probably want to take away that a lot of people have said on social media for the last couple of weeks is swapping Betteridge on the third line for Logan on the fourth line. So having Nielsen on the third and then having Betteridge on the fourth line with Kelso, where it kind of is a ground and pound line. But Logan just seems to have gone on that third line, being with people that can pass and produce for him, not knocking the fourth line, of course, but kind of being in that situation that some coaches will just be, they have a vision and they'll just stick by it no matter what, not look for any changes, any improvements or anything like that. But you've got to credit Dennis Stewart that says, I want to get him involved. I want to try and get something clicking. He does it, and then he reaps the rewards. And he's kind of putting himself in a position where he had a really great first season with the Panthers. A little bit of a slower start this season, of course, back end of the injury as well. Had time with GB, the opportunity of having a little bit within the camp as well, playing with his brother. And of course, his dad is a coach as well. So really great experience for him there. But it's exciting to see what a player like Logan can do. He's got the body, he's got the build, he's got the skill. And of course, he's got pro goals. Of course, Utah posted about the pro goals for Cade, even though obviously what he did with Clan a couple of weeks ago probably doesn't count, according to them. But I get it. Really good family, really good team, bedded in the city of Nottingham, developed within the UK. Fantastic opportunities and great to see what they're doing now. But talented, really great performance. Panthers get a 4-point weekend. I'm going to be really happy with that. And then they go into the big one, remembrance game on the Saturday against the Steelers, of course. Seeing the remembrance jerseys today for Panthers with the troops as well doing that. So it's great to see those. I've seen Storms as well. You're looking at it, great, with a lot of military history within the family. So the fact that they're doing the remembrance games as well, it's really good. Going to be a tough one against the Steelers. It always is. Going to be in a position there. It's going to be a bit of an interesting game to watch and exciting. But, that's the thing is from forward momentum now, no games in the week. Nice little bit of chance for a couple of days off for the team. Get coaching in optional ice time, look through tape, recharge the batteries, and then all come together for both sides, really. Fresh, galvanise both teams with the weekends that they've had. I think Saturday night, I think there's like 400 odd tickets from today that they posted, which is always, is a really good one to see. But you're in a position where, it's going to be sell out there or thereabouts. And I think a lot of teams are going to be really excited and really enjoy that kind of game. That's going to be something that be interesting. Chance to watch them. And maybe this is the time that the streak is snapped and Panthers get the win against the Steelers. So Coventry, Sunday, Halloween game as well. Glasgow Clan. Kind of feels like from Glasgow Clan point of view, you look at it on Saturday against Guildford, 5-3 game, early game, travelling, from Glasgow. I mean, I don't know if it's a coach or they would fly down for that one there, but I think what I've seen on social media the last couple of days is that, he's gone back to what Corey said at the beginning of the season about, the players that he was going to bring in, recruit. And if they weren't performing, they were going to be shown the door. And, we've had, we have this thing with Clan where, everyone loves the massive comments and the clan base meltdowns and everything. But they've kind of been quite reserved and respected this year. But the problem is that Clan's kind of not had this continuous trail of defeats. Really great. They beat Fife last weekend, and they picking up sporadic victories against Belfast, and then a really good performance against Belfast away as well for the next game. Is that there's not a situation with Clan where they are being in a position where they'll have a bad weekend, something will happen, they'll get a result, and it kind of alleviates that pressure, that thought process of what people are thinking and what people are doing within the team and what they're producing and the kind of players that are being brought in and, the DOPS side of things, if they're getting banned for a couple of games, the people that they're dropping as well for healthy scratches is, they're not in a great position in the league. There's, ample opportunity for them to try and get through the Challenge Cup as well. But it's still early days. It's November. Corey, a lot's been said, about his time as a player, as a coach, not just here in the UK, but abroad as well. Is having someone like that with the experience and the talent that he's got and the hockey brain he's got. Because, I mean, how many times I've been hearing conversations the last couple of weeks about him being a pain in the cup team, that if it was a two-legged game, Green's dad said that, pretty much he would just shut up shop and he'd just be the master of a two-legged game that he would play as a coach. And that's the thing, is that, I think about it, with him being a coach as long as he had, has the players changed? Has they cut that kind of mentality that he had when the people he was coaching back in the time of the younger generation? How does that look now? But I have no concerns for Clan. It's not a great position for them now, but they seem to have a tendency to have a little bit of a run. Everything seems to be calm water, smooth as anything that you get, and then they go and lose 5-3 to Flames on the Saturday, and then against Blaze. I mean, the way things are looking at it, if you look at Flames from the night before at Storm, the momentum that they would have probably went in against Glasgow. Of course, there's different circumstances, being at the Spectrum, time for teams that they're playing, the kind of mentality that it is, early start. A lot of factors that you can pull in, but you look at that and then you think, okay, then they've stopped over the weekend. That's perfect. From Guildford to Coventry, they've got now a chance to obviously not be in their own beds, but kind of be at a reasonable time where they needed to stop for the next night and then get in, get prepped and sorted. But Blaze, coming from Scotland, going a little bit into overtime, late one back, chance to come through. But Blaze at home have been really good, and that's probably another performance that you've got to look at, really, where certain teams, when they go, there's always that thing, well, we played extra hockey last night, bus legs or anything like that, us trying to get back. But Coventry had none of that. They just did the job, performed to the best of their ability, and got the points. And, for a Halloween game to celebrate Matt Robson being player of the month for them as well, you kind of think, well, they've done really, really well. Got 3 points, but put themselves in a really good position. That's the thing with Blaze now, is that they're not being a team that you kind of look at and you think, they've played really well against Devils. They play really well against every team that they come across now. And when you've got the momentum, when you've got that feel-good factor in the building, regardless who you play, and you've not got injuries, Dops are not knocking on your door and you're losing numbers here, there and everywhere, is why can't they keep going on this run? Why can't they keep playing as well as they do? And it's going to be interesting to see how that progresses throughout the season. I'm still not doing a prediction of where they're going to finish, so people need to stop asking me that, because I'm staying neutral in this one. So we've covered that. So last game Sunday, of course, is the Cardiff Devils against Sheffield Steelers. So that's probably the one that, again, we can go back to what we were talking about earlier. If you have just joined us or you missed the first couple of bits, it was talking about officiating in the league. Is, another game. Didn't watch the game. We were going to get the stream, but we decided against it because money's at tight. But, we were in a situation there where we heard about Sourceman and, obviously going out to everything that happened there, anyone who was listening or watching to that, hearing stuff that happened to himself on the bench, and Aaron Fox at the end saying that he passed out, but he's okay. That's obviously one thing that we just want to go and say. And, we posted the video. We posted I think it was 9 hits in the end that was counted. And obviously the court of public opinion is that, people have kind of put their information in to say that, seeing a player going down like that, he reacted the way he did. Why didn't he ask for him to drop the gloves on centre ice if he had an issue? What was going through his head? He should be arrested. He should be banned for 100 games. And social media, I've seen so many variations of that. I mean, the question is, do I condone that behaviour? No. It's completely out of character for the person that we know is Cole Shudra. I'm not a hockey player. I don't know what's been said or what's been done to put him in a position to do that, but the letter of the law, the rules that need to be there, is that you can't be doing something like that. The officials did the right thing by ejecting him. We'll see what Dops do with the circumstance. I mean, they should probably drop something this week. Don't know how much he's going to be banned. I don't know if Dops are actually going to give us a video this time, because obviously we know that if it's 3 games or more, they will produce a video. If not, then it's just the information on the website. So we'll see. I think that's the scariest thing, is that considering what happened with AJ the week before remembrance of a year that's passed, and then having something like that happen to one of your teammates, one of your band of brothers that have been there for you for the past year, over the successes and the tribulations and hardships that you've had, is a factor that you've just got to look into and say that. I mean, I'm not saying, I'm not in his shoes. I'm not the person who did that when something happened. So I can't, was it because of that? Was it something that was said? Was it just something that at the moment that happened? All you can see is, this is where we go back from what we said earlier in the conversation. We get a snapshot of a 10, 15-second video, and then the court of public opinion will hit that everyone will judge it on what it should be. Do we condone it? Is it acceptable? Should it have been done? If the officials didn't do anything with it, that is the thing, is that we look at bits that we post, and people that are at the game, and people comment saying there was no reaction from the players, the fans didn't react to anything like that. And because the first instinct that you see is that you just see comments saying, what have you done, why have you done that, and stuff like that, and you can't do it. I mean, and then people are saying, what if there's an enforcer? Someone should be straight in there and just knocking hell's bells and dropping gloves, or he should have dropped gloves rather than acting like that. There's so many things you can look at something like that, where we post it. This is the thing, we post the things on there because they need to be posted from a aspect of, the thing is, if we post it, we can kind of control it in the sense of it being posted, but then it kind of, some people will retweet it, some people will just copy and paste it and make it out as that it's their own post as well. But we're kind of in that position there of seeing the kind of comments. But when people are starting to mention, players that are no longer with us, or players that, for circumstances that are involved in that, into comments, I know some people have had that on social media and reached out today about it. So cannot condone people mentioning those circumstances or anything like that, especially a year that's after what's happened. And it's, human nature sometimes to see something like that. But you're absolutely right, you can't condone that sort of action, and it's now within the hands of the official bodies within the league to see what the ban is and how they react. Admittedly, with everything that happened on the Saturday evening about people making the preconceived idea that a lot of people commented about Storm being kicked out of the league, this is where we go back, that 24 hours before, people were mentioning that, and the conduct and the performance of the officials and the Storm players and the organisation, for then that to happen on the Sunday, is there was a lot of people from different teams and different facets that were waiting to have that kind of conversation and bring that into the equation. And that's the thing, is we've all been in a position where, in the heat of the moment, we said or done something that we instantly regret. And, I'm not in his shoes. I don't know how he's feeling today and anything like that. But if it was me, and I can only go with my opinion like that, I would be like, what did I do that for? Why, that's not me. That's not in my character or anything like that. Playing really, really well, really great talent, hell of a player. And, we kind of leave it in the circumstances where we're talking about something like that, where, you look at it and think, stupid. But you've got to credit the Steelers fans that, no one kind of pussyfooted around it. No one kind of had orange tinted glasses. They called it out for what it is and said that that's not acceptable, and, that should be a ban, and given their thought processes of that, being unhappy about the defeat, but not going all in with it in relation to the conduct or the players or anything like that. And I think that's probably one of the bigger things that we've seen this weekend is that a lot of teams and everything like that hasn't used personal bias with the teams that are involved, be it Storm, be Flames, or Steelers, where they've kind of done it in such a way that the old brown envelopes conversations or officiating in this league. There's still bits and pieces that we have that will always throw its head on a week in, week out. But I think that's probably the big thing that we've taken away from this episode and this weekend, really, is if you look back on everything that's happened, we've spoken about the games, we've spoken about the results, we've spoken about the tables, the point scorers, the goal scorers. Is the key thing that we're focusing on from that weekend is the incidences from a certain amount of games. There's been some really great plays, there've been some really, really good positive things to look at. But this is what we're kind of built upon on social media now. And I know the irony of me saying it of all people, because I'm kind of in a position where that kind of controversy creates cash, as Eric Bischoff said. So you're kind of in that situation where you have something like that and it kind of divides opinion and brings opinion to your door. But it'd just be nice, it's going to be Remembrance Sunday this weekend. There's a lot of really good games that are going to be on, a lot of excitement. It'd be just nice to focus on the hockey and watch the enjoyment again of a little bit of a drama, a little bit of action, a lot of high scoring, and a really nice weekend. But obviously, of course, the bingo card got another full house. So I should say thank you to everyone for helping with that. Again, not very often we get a full house, but we did it in one day. So I had a Sunday off on the bingo card, so that was even better. But it's good fun. And for the people that says it's, too easy, this is probably the second or third one this season, and we've had like 9 or 10 weeks. So we're not batting it a great average. So I do appreciate it. But, that's hockey this weekend. It's been great. As always, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Subscribe on here. Follow on TikTok. TikTok seems to be a lot of fun now. I'm getting the hang of it. Spotify as well. Don't forget to follow us on Spotify. If you don't like my face, just let you know in a couple of days' time, this will be on Spotify as well. So you can listen to your heart's pleasure if you want to listen to me in the morning on the way to work. If you want to be in bed at 9, 10 o'clock at night, you want to listen to my docile tones to put you to sleep, you can do that now with Spotify. So it's not just Karina who gets that. You can have that too. But it's been, been really great last couple of weeks. I just want to thank everyone for their support, their kindness as well. And obviously, if you've seen that, we've kind of been building communication and co-fabs with different people. Hercules have been in touch. There should be something coming out in the next couple of weeks that they're looking at and designing. So watch our social media for something they're looking at. And we've had a really great time. And fingers crossed before Christmas. I mean, the plan is, I won't lie, if Clan will have us, I'd love to go to Brayhead. I'd also love to go to Dundee because they're the two last vestiges of arenas in the UK that I've not been to in the Elite League, and then I've got a full house. I mean, of course, the Rink Tour is very different because that was only started this season, so I've got to redo those teams to do that. But it'd be nice because that's the plan. Try and get through them and then try and go through the National League teams. Before the end of the season. A lot of traveling, a lot of excitement, but I'm going to get a hotel if I do because I'm not spending 53 hours without sleep because it kind of turned me a little bit doo-wappy in the end. But it's been an absolute pleasure. Follow us on our socials, drop any messages. We'd love to hear from you, love to chat to you. Let us know. And, have a great week in the hockey, whatever you do. Let us know what games you do. Send us stuff. We'd love to hear from you and all have a great evening.